Hello, everyone. My name is Kashawn Hopkins. I'm an instructional technology specialist, and we're here today with another tech talk. And this one is over Gimkit. This started off as a school project made by one guy. Now it's blossomed into something over the course of 5 years, where is a web-based game platform that you can use to help review and extend your students' learning. So I think it's a pretty cool tool. You can compare it to things like Kahoot, and we just went over Bookit not too long ago. And while it doesn't necessarily have like the polish of Kahoot, or it's not as popular as it, or the games of Bookit, it definitely has a couple of features I think that helps have it stand out from those tools from there that I would love to highlight here. But before I get too far into it, I'm joined once again with my colleague. Always glad he's here. You should definitely get to know him if you haven't done so already. So how about you go ahead, introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Kurt Bernhardt. I'm the technology director for OPSRC. Kashawn and I make up the technology team here, and we're here to help any way you need, whether it be internet or teaching teachers how to use technology in the classroom. And Kashawn can share how to reach out to us.
And I would argue the best way to catch us is through email. You can shoot us something at techteam@opsrc.net. And like Kurt said, we would love to get in touch with you and extend any conversations that we've brought up before, or anything that has to do with technology. If you're here in the live session, I have a link on here that you can use to access these slides. You can get to them. I'm going to read this out just in case. This is case sensitive, so it's going to be lowercase t period ly /96 lowercase p uppercase a. Or you can get these slides through opsrc.net /TechTalks, which I'm going to just spend a little bit of time over there. The page looks a little something like this. We have our upcoming tech talks here that you could register for. We got a button to suggest future tech topics or tools, and we have an archive that takes a good chunk of the space here over topics like technology standards, tech integration models, special interest topics, and individual tech tools. Each one of them is accompanied with a recording, very much like the one that I'm doing for this one, and some slides. And each of those slides contain my research that I've done for each one of these tools, and some resources that can help either go over some things that I've already talked about, just in case you need to revisit them, or extend your learning if you would love to know more. So you definitely want to grab those. Bookmark this page, grab anything that you want, share it. I would love people to have access to all of these things. I have quite the long list on here, and it's just getting bigger. So yeah, with that, let's talk a little bit about Gimkit. I want you to show you what it's capable of. The basic idea is that you have these things, they call them kits. They're basically question sets that either come in the form of multiple choice answers or open response ones. And you get to play a game, and you basically, the more correct answers you get, the more you get to play on here. And I have one example of that over here. So if you have your phones, you can follow along if you'd like. We have me and Kurt in here at the moment, and so we have a link at the top. So if you're hosting a game, and I'll show you how to do a little bit of that when I'm showcasing the tool a little bit later, but once you get to the hosting the game part, you're going to share a code with your class up there, and they'll go on their devices. Anything that has a web browser essentially on it, and it has connected to the internet, you can connect to. So students can use their phones, you can use an iPad, Chromebooks, no problem. They should be able to connect to this through gimkit.com/join, and the code, very straightforward stuff. After that process, they'll be able to put in a name. You can reject the name for security purposes, just in case, and then they'll be sent over here. They'll have these little avatars. You can have them move around. It works quite nicely if it's a touch device. If you're on mouse and keyboard, you can move with WASD, which is pretty standard for gaming. And on here, excuse me, they have instructions for the specific game. Each game comes with a little tutorial that will help guide them through it, just in case they've never played it before. So on this one, it says, answer questions. It shows them on the bottom left-hand corner. Every question they answer, they gain energy. You use those energies to move around and get power-ups on here. You capture the flag, which is the point of the game, without being tagged. If they are, it'll mess them up. And every team that has the most captures wins the point. So there's like a time based on it. There's also controls that you can have on there, which I'll show in a minute. On the bottom right-hand corner, it says joining as a player. You don't necessarily have to play. You can actually spectate and see how other students are doing, which is quite a nice view that's on there. But I'm going to show joining as a player so you can see the student's view on this for this game. So I'm going to start it. Okay, a little bit instructions on here, just kind of echoing what we said before. You have your little avatar in here. So I have my timer on the top right-hand corner. You notice that's ticking down for 10 minutes. You can adjust that when you host the game, but I have, as a player, what's important to me right now is the energy score, which is 1,000. Now, for every step that it takes about 40 per tick-ish, which is like every step my character takes. Once I've run far enough, it will stop me and say, oh, you've ran out of energy. You need to answer a question. So this is where the content piece comes in, combining with the game elements. So, and you go to the bottom left-hand corner, click answer questions. And I have my multiple choice questions set up here. So if I answer correctly, yeah, I got points. And I can actually continue to answer more questions to bank points on this. But while this is happening, other people are playing and a lot of stuff might be going on without you knowing. So it's good to try to answer these questions as fast as possible, but as correct as possible as well, because if I answer a question wrong, it actually subtracts energy from me and it blocks me out for time, making it a little bit slower to try to catch up on here. So it's to their advantage to guess right or know it right. You don't want to guess it. So once I run around, I can see that there are like little power-ups and things that I can get. There's these little boxes that you can trade energy for. You could bump into other players. I got tagged, so I lost some of my energy, which is yeah, something you want to try to avoid on there. So it's kind of nice. It's a good mix of like game elements and playing the game. On the top right-hand corner, you can see a couple of buttons like if you see any players on there, if you want to remove them from the game, you can do that. Just in case you have some students that you need to do that for. You have leaderboards to see who's ahead. You could adjust things like sound, or normally it would be playing music, but I muted all of it to make it a little bit easier to present this. And I just got a little notification that somebody stole my flag, so I need to go do something about it. Let's see if can I catch up? Am I able to catch up? I don't know if I have enough energy. We'll see in a minute. I got you, Kurt. And then it sent them back. Fantastic. So cool game elements. It has a little bit of competition in there, but it also, of course, has the content, which of course, that's really what we want them to have them do here. But they're having a little bit of fun and they're doing something a little bit different with these questions. So I would love to show more. Hopefully you at least get an idea of what you can do with Gimkit. Now let's continue over here. I have my objective. After this Tech Talk, educators will be able to integrate Gimkit into their classroom to help students remediate and extend their learning. So two things that I think are really helpful. For this tool, I don't think it's necessarily good in terms of presenting content, but after you've done that, I think it's good for revisiting and extending there. For a schedule, we got our basics here. I'm going to do a tool overview. I'm going to talk just about a couple of aspects and features of the tool itself. I'm going to jump into a showcase where I show off how to do your first couple of steps in the tools and highlight some of the features that I talked about in the overview. The next, I want to talk a little bit about integrating technology. I'm always for having a plan when you introduce a piece of technology in your classroom, so you have a clear plan, so you can get clear results. And then I'm going to combine those first two steps into a tool application section. So I'll talk a little bit more what that looks like. But I'm going to invite you to essentially think about what would this tool look like inside of your classroom and how to go about it from there, and give you some suggestions for that. And then finally, I'll wrap it up. I'll point out a couple of resources that I have to share with you, point you to an evaluation, and shower you with my appreciation. So with that, let's get started. We have the overview. First of all, just a clean definition of Gimkit. What is it? I would say it is a game show style review platform. It's fantastic for that. What kind of features does it have? Well, I did mention before the types of questions that you can have are multiple choice and open response. Be very careful, much like any open response in the automatic graded setting, be very careful how you word your answers on there. You might have to anticipate what types of answers you might run across. And one nice thing that you have that's a part of Gimkit is that you can look through reports. So if you find some answers that are kind of like, yeah, you would accept those, you can look back and try to add it in and make adjustments on your kits that you make, or you can assimilate other kits. There is a feature called Kit Collab, which I think is fantastic. I'll show a bit of that. But the basic idea is that you can invite people to build question sets, which I think is fantastic. Though you did experience the live game just a second ago, but you also have asynchronous learning through homework assignments, which I think is a fantastic feature. You could essentially set a due date and a certain set of questions, and students can work through a game by themselves to work through and get some practice on there. In fact, there is a practice mode. You don't necessarily have to have game sets associated with the game elements. You can just have them work through questions, and that's fine. There are limited rotating games, so we are using a free version of the account, and so there's certain games that are going to be blocked off because they're only for pro accounts. So please keep that in mind. You will always have the classic version of the game, which is, if you're familiar with Kahoot, that's the classic version, and you can also put students in teams. Those two will always be available. Other than that, the two other games will rotate depending on the time here. They got little fun money power-ups on there. So regardless what game mode you're playing through, students can, whenever they answer a question right, like on the classic modes, they'll have these little money pieces that they collect like in-game currency, and they can use those to help them out. But it never removes the rigor of the questions themselves. It's mostly like helping them, like if they answer a certain amount of questions in a row, they get more money or they get more scores or different things like that. You can also have classes, which allows students to log in with student accounts. So if you have students that are older, like 13 plus, I would recommend using something like that, because it allows you to make the reports a little bit more detailed. You can look at individual students and see how they're progressing, and see how they progress not only in specific games, but on games over time, and how they're going through content on there. So quite nice. And of course, like I had mentioned before, plenty of reports for you to look through, which I think is one of the biggest boons of tools like this one, is being able to do these formative assessments and make adjustments and see what things do you need to really cover with your students and what things you don't need to waste time on. If this sounds exciting to you, you can access it through gimkit.com. Before we go there and start the showcase, I did put a page of little first steps that you could do here. The optional one that you can start with, if you think your students, if it's appropriate enough for your students, is create a class and invite students to it. It's a pretty straightforward process that I'll start with in a second. The next thing is create a kit or look for one. So we'll do a little bit of that as well. Next is play a live game or assign homework. After that, once you've hosted one of these games or assigned the homework, you want to share that code out. You can either do it through the specific number code you share with the students in class, or you could share it through a link. So if you already have something set up like Google Classroom, Microsoft Teams, you could shoot out a link through that and have students join the game. And then finally, once students have done the work, you can review and apply those reports, use a bit of that data that you have there. Okay, hopefully that sounds good. Let's swap over to Gimkit and show you around. I'm already logged in here, so I'm going to just log out real quick so you can see the first couple of steps. But once you get to the main page on here, you'll be greeted by Josh F. This is the creator of the game. He talks a little bit about the game. I think the front page is pretty nice, just giving you an overview of how this works and some of the features, but I'm also going to show you here. If you're going to get started as an educator, you want to go to the top right-hand corner and click sign up. If you're a student, you'll go to join game. If you went to gimkit.com instead of gimkit.com/join, there's a little button that will lead them there where they could type in the code. Or if you're me and you're already played, I'm going to click on log in. Now you can log in with either a Google account or an email. No problem. I'm going to log in with my usual account that I have here. And it'll take you to the dashboard here. So pretty clean dashboard. When you do log in the Gimkit for the first time, it will automatically sign up for you with a pro account, which lets you access a bunch of stuff. So please keep in mind, I think I want to say it's like 7 days free, and you can like request to have an extra couple of days of pro, but just keep in mind that you aren't going to have all the features. I haven't been able to figure out a way to like cancel it and just immediately have the basics. So you might as well enjoy the pro if you have it while you have it. But if you're using a free account, that is what I'm going to assume for this tech talk that we have here. So first things first, this is an optional step. You don't necessarily have this, since you can have students use codes to get to your assignments or kits or anything like that, but I'm going to click on classes. If you want to create one, you'll go to the top right-hand corner and click plus new class. From here, you'll type in whatever your name is for the class on there, just something really easy. So if students see it or if you see it, it makes it really easy. And it even gives a little bit of instructions up here on why it's good for a class. But yeah, it's a good feature. You can set a color and then click create class. And then from there, you will have a little link that you can copy, and you could paste this out in like a mass email or put it into Google Classroom. It's pretty straightforward to set up. If you one of the options that you can set is to auto accept students. This is probably a good idea initially, but once you have like the bulk of your students taken care of, turn this off for security reasons. That way, under the tab, the third tab that we have here that says invites, you can manually say yes, you can join the class, because there's no way to change this link that's on here. You just copy it, you put it out there. So please keep that in mind, unless you want to delete the class and create another class. That's really the only way that I've been able to find to change that code. Okay, top left-hand corner, let's go back to Gimkit. Step 2 is either create a kit or search for one. Searching for one is pretty straightforward. Top right-hand corner, if you click search kits, you will type in the thing that you need. So if I need, I don't know, Spanish Gimkit, it will search for stuff. I have filtering and sorting options over here if I'd like to use it. If I hover over any of these Gimkits, these kits that I have over here, you can see the questions on the right-hand side on here. So, yeah, and anybody can create this stuff. So it's a good idea for you to look through and try to see if any of this matches what you want. If it is, if you click on it, then it will give you some more options, like you can play it live as a part of a game. You could click practice, you could share it out. If you like the sets of questions, you can click copy, and it'll automatically give you a copy in your kits, no problem. So that's one way to do it. The other way to do it is go to kits on the top left-hand corner and create your own. It's a cool, easy, straightforward process that you have here. You'll go to kits, you'll click on the top right-hand corner, plus new kit. You'll give it a name, awesome kit. You'll give it a language and subject. Those are really just tags. So if you look at it, you know kind of what it's about. And if someone searches for it, they can search through those filters on there. But I'm gonna click next. You have photos for the like the art that will, so you can see that whenever you see these kits on here. So I'm just going to pick this generic math one, or you could put your own in there. There's no problem. And then from there, it will automatically open up on the top left-hand corner your first step, which is adding questions in there. So you have a couple of different options on here, like just adding in questions or dumping them from a bank or importing them from a sheet. I'm just going to click add question and then have it ask away on here. So I can have something like, what is 5 times 7. And I can add photos on here to help illustrate that. If I wanted something like extra symbols, there is a keyboard for it. So if I go into the field and click that open book icon, you can see that there's tons of icons, tons of symbols that you can use to help illustrate that point. If you want this to be a text input, like an open response style question, if you want to swap that, you can do that by selecting that option on the top right hand corner of that field. There, you'll swap that up. No problem. Now, one of the features that I think I really like about Gimkit that I typically see this tied up in premium, but I think it's such a good accessibility feature. I think it should be just a part of regular free accounts, is by adding audio on here. Something you do so if you want students to be able to hear the questions, make it a little more accessible, or if you're tying these questions as a part of language and you want students to help learn that language by hearing, I think this is a fantastic feature to take advantage of. So you can click on add audio, and it will ask you to record your voice. It might have to go through the usual permissions of like accepting and letting you use your microphone, but it's pretty easy. You click on start recording and you just read it off. What is 5 times 7? And then it gives you a little clip. You can play it to preview. And that's good enough for me. If it's not good, like it's like you're recording a voicemail and I'm like, oh, I sounded bad, or I took a big breath on that one, you can click new recording and start the process over again. But I'm going to click save. And now we have a little audio piece, and students will see it on when they're doing the questions. They'll have that little microphone button that they can click on, and it reads it off, which is great. At the bottom, I have my answers. It will scramble these. So I'm going to type in 35 for that one, and then kind of whatever for the other ones. But that will just have like a little answer pool on there that they can use. Something I did want to point out is if you don't have a text answer on that one, you can always add a photo on there by clicking add photos. If your answers are images, you can take advantage of it on there. Once it's ready, you click add, and it will add it to a list on there, and it'll even give you a little button to play the audio, which works quite nicely. If you need to make any edits on the right-hand side, there's a little edit button that you can click and it will reopen that menu for you. Or if you want to take advantage of the Kit Collab features on there on the left-hand side, you can click on collaborate with Kit Collab. So I just want to show this off a little bit. So the idea behind this is that you can crowdsource questions from people. And I think this will work really nicely to get your students involved and have them engage on creating sets themselves. So if you click Enable Kit Collab, you share out this link, or you could click View QR Code. And so if you have a device, you can scan the code on there. It will give them to essentially the same link that they had from before. And what it will do is it will open up Kit Collab on their device. They'll put their name on there. So I'm just going to put cash for mine. And you'll have a button that you can contribute a new question. So I am doing this kind of on the side on here, but I'm just going to contribute like a basic question. I don't know, 2 + 2. I can make it multiple choice or text input. It's the same options that you would have a second ago when I was just adding questions. And once you're done, you tap add, it will say waiting for approval. So on my end, when somebody submits a question on the right-hand side over here, I can see what it looks like, and I can see all the answers and whatnots. If I think it's great, I can say add to kit. If it's not, I can reject it, and I can also see who submitted this. And so that adds that to the list. So it's a great way to get the students more involved, get them thinking about the questions, about how to answer them. You can give feedback on there. And then once you're done, you'll have a nice little assessment that you didn't have to create. So cool stuff. Okay. I'm going to go a little bit over time on this one, but I think it's all right. I think it's worth it on here. So if you're still with me, awesome. but just giving a little bit of a heads up. Okay, once you have your kit ready, you can do one of two things. You can either click play live, which is what we did a little bit before when you were messing around with the capture the flag, or you can click assign homework. So I'm going to click that, assign homework. And it will give you a couple of options. It will highlight which ones are only associated with pro accounts on here. You'll still see them even if you have a free account. I want to scroll over to Cash Tycoon, which is your basic. This will always be available to you. Once you select a game, you'll go to the top right hand corner and click continue. You'll set a due date on there. If you have a class on here, you can select which one that you want to associate this homework with. So I'm going to associate it with the class that we just created. You can put a cash goal by default, which typically go way lower on the cash goal on here, because for every question they answer, they only get $1. And for every question that they answer after that, they get an additional $1. So like if you answer 3 questions in a row, you get $1 for the first one, 2 for the second one, 3 for the next one. And if they get it wrong, it resets that. So if you're going to do it based off of cash, I would recommend starting with something relatively low. This is something you would have to sort of feel out. What I think is probably going to be a little bit more useful is to set question goals. So set how many correct questions you want them to answer on here. So that's probably a little bit more useful. At max, it will let you set for how many questions you have in your kit or your set. On here, I'll just 5 questions or something. So in this case, there's 75 questions in this kit. So it'll pick 5. It'll keep shooting questions at them until they eventually get 5 right on here. So that's the way this will work out. From here, I'll click continue. And from there, you'll share out your assignment. So you'll do it through a link. I think this works quite nicely if you already have like a Google Classroom set up or something of that form, another LMS system here. Once you share that out, they can go to that link and it will put them in the Cash Tycoon game, which has the usual stuff that a game has. You have your little avatar. It will give them a little bit of explanation. I'll click start assignment on the bottom of my screen that just popped up over there. It lets me run around a little bit. We have those power-ups on the bottom on the different corners of the room here. It lets me know what kind of streak that I'm on. And if I go to these colored buttons in the middle of my room, it will give me a prompt to start my questions, and then I answer them from here. So straightforward stuff on there. And for every question I get right, I get a dollar amount that I can use going towards power-ups. So good stuff. Once students are done doing those assignments, you can go back and click on results, and it will show you the results. I'll show you a little bit more of something that I have on here. So if you're looking for reports, you don't want to jump into the assignment button page. If you go over your kit and there are these 3 dots to the right of play live and assignment buttons. If you hover over it and then click reports, it will shoot you straight there. I have multiple instances of this assignment, so I can see each one on here. I'm going to click this checkmark one. Yeah, this works. And it will show me either the student overview reports. So this will let me know how individual students are doing. And this only works if they have accounts on here. It shows them what questions they got right. Or we could do a summative general review to see like how many questions people answer correctly or incorrectly, what the accuracy is. And one thing that's nice is that I can look at the question breakdown, which allows me to see how questions fared against my whole entire class, to see like if there's some certain content that I need to revisit with my students on here to see how they did. So yeah, great stuff on there. All right, I think that is it on that. Ruby. All right, what I want to use the rest of my time here for is to talk a little bit about tech integration. Another question that I like to ask is, how would you plan to integrate technology? And there's tons of ways to answer that question. Really great ways. I'm going to pick one of these and highlight it here, which is the technology integration matrix, one of my favorites. The basic idea is that you take a look at 5 different characteristics of your learning environments, and try to see if you can apply your technology tool, and see like what level students are at in terms of using the tool, and see if you can bump them up to the levels that are higher. There's 5 different levels on that one. I'll highlight a couple here. The 5 different characteristics is active, collaborative, constructive, authentic, and goal-directed. If you want a little bit more information about what all of these are, I have a tech talk on this, and of course you can visit the Technology Integration Matrix website, which is a link on the page on here. But what I'm going to do with the time that I have here is take one of these characteristics and apply it to Gimkit that we just talked about not long ago. So that is what this is. So let's combine the 2 spaces here, technology integration and the tool, and see if we can do this activity, which is called Move Up a Level, created by Roy Winkleman. So, and you can do this with any of the characteristics on the same tool. You don't have to just limit yourself to one. In fact, you should probably have a plan for a couple of different characteristics that you feel like is important for your classroom. But in this case, let's say, for example, that right now I want my students to really work on being collaborative learners here. So that is my characteristic. That is typically described by collaborating with others instead of working with yourself individually. If you're collaborating with others, you're bringing in more ideas. You're bringing in space to bring in feedback on here, and it's just building kind of a more richer learning environment here. And what I'm going to do is start at the lowest level of technology integration, which I think is not a bad idea to start there, especially if you're introducing a tool for the first time, and then building on that on each step, or at least having a plan of what it looks like, so I know if I'm introducing a tool with my students, I know what I'm working towards. So the very first step would be the entry level of technology integration. And this is more characterized by passive use of the tool. Typically, the teachers like the ownership of the information, ownership of how the tool is going to be used, and you're more hands-on on this step, while students are simply getting the information here. So in this case, I think the tool is pretty good. Like if you're taking advantage of the assignment feature, it's kind of like that. And then even in this case, you really don't have to do a whole lot much more than just focusing on getting students logged in, getting them used to using the codes, making sure, and this is a good place to sort of troubleshoot their device to make sure that it's working appropriately. And if students, are having trouble, you can take care of it at this step before you start doing a little bit more advanced things. So I think assignments is really good for this, because students can kind of work in their own time. And as the students that are working, they're not having any trouble, you could bounce to students that are having problems and try to see if these assignments are going to work out for them, or if you need to swap it up to more live assignments to see if that works. But of course, this isn't the only way that you can approach the entry step of the technology matrix in terms of that plan, but this is one that I would recommend that you take advantage of. Once you feel like your students are comfortable enough with the tool, enough to where they're like, all right, let's bust out our Gimkits, and they immediately know what you want them to do, you have those classroom management routines set in place, I would recommend you bump them up to the adoption phase, which is more characterized by procedural use of the tools. You're starting to take advantage of more of the features that are available in your classroom, and you're starting to shift that dynamic from teacher-owned tool to student-owned tool. Students are getting more involved here. So in this case, I recommend that you have students participate in group-based games. So this is like now you're starting to combine their powers together. The classic mode on there, as you saw a second ago with the Cash Tycoon, you can actually have students get together in teams and see like which team can earn the most money on here. You can split the team with the class in half and have them compete against each other on here and have them contribute, have them feel like they are our piece of a whole that's working together. So that way, the competition doesn't necessarily discourage some of the students that are a little bit behind. They feel like they're contributing as a part of the team, and have them working against each other. You can give little bonuses or something like that for either participating or beating the other team on that one. So you can get them a little bit more involved with competitive aspects of this. So yeah, there's a couple of options for you to do that, but you'll always have the classic group option available to you. So don't worry about that not being available if the other games are being rotated out. Finally, there is the adaptation phase, and this is not the only, there are two more technology integration steps after that that are way more involved, but I think this is a good place to stop for, at least for this, because once you have the students useful, they know the tool, they've been using it quite a lot. In the adaptation phase, this is more characterized by independent use of the tool. Students are either actively pursuing this tool, or they are actively involved in the teacher's really more stepping back as a facilitator of how the tool is being used here. So in this case, I highly recommend that you take a look at Kit Collab. And this can be used either if you have younger students that are familiar with the tool, or if you have students with accounts. And if students do have accounts, they can actually log in and create their own kits, which you can have them post, and then you can copy through those or look through. So there's lots of ways that you can kind of approach this. But probably the most basic, most generic version of doing this is having a kit up, posting that QR code or that link, having students come in and start submitting questions on there. So this is a really great way to have students, like, have them read through a passage and then try to come up with questions, or have them get some math questions put up there and making sure that they have appropriate answers. You can have them do language style questions on here and have them translate phrases or words or vocabulary words that you have pointed out on here. So this is a really great way to have students get more involved, especially with the content side of the of what you're trying to present on there. I think Kit Collab is a good way to do that. So take advantage of those features. And the collaboration part comes into there, where students can work in small groups and have them workshop the question first before it gets to you. That way you're not always the person who's trying to give feedback. Students can work through and try to figure out, and you can say, okay, I want, by the end of this time block, I want at least 3 questions from you, and make sure all of you agree what the correct answer is. That way, at least if they're submitting the question to you, it's going to at least have the right answer. But it's just kind of a good way for students to think through the question process and how correct the content is. Is this a really good question or not? And then, students will help you build assessment, and they really feel like they they have more ownership of the learning, not just in what they're learning on here, but what the other students are also learning as well. So I think that's a really cool way to approach that Gimkit enables. Well, everyone, we've gotten to that point. We're at the end of the Tech Talk. If you've made it up to this point, I really do appreciate anybody that's listened to either this recording or joined us in the live session. I want to wrap this all up by sharing a few things with you that I think are going to be useful. I have a page dedicated to some resources specifically about Gimkit. I think they have some really great help articles on here. Something that I haven't suggested really all that much before in terms of resources, but I think Gimkit's is actually pretty good, is their Twitter. I think they post updates on there on like what game modes are coming up. And one of the things that I really enjoyed about their Twitter is how other schools were showing off how they are using Gimkit on there. And so they've given me some ideas that I've brought into this Tech Talk. And I think there's a lot more stuff if you mine through and see what's available. And if you're doing something with Gimkit, post it out on there, help them build that community, and share that out, because I think their Twitter was actually pretty well used on here. So yeah, take advantage of that. The next page is dedicated to technology integration. If you're interested in using the technology integration matrix, and you want to see what other frameworks are out there, I've included some links on here that I think are going to help you extend that learning for that, and apply it into different situations. And because those technology integration frameworks are really good for really any technology tool that you want to bring in your classroom. And so if you want to take it up to the next level with a different tool, this is a great place to go. And I've done so many other tech talks on everything that's on this page. I've done tech talks. And so if you want to take a look at those, or if you want to have a conversation with me and Kurt about it, you know how to find us. So huge thank you. If you do want to reach to us, you can do it through techteam@opsrc.net. I got our contact information out over there. We would love to keep this conversation going. And it doesn't just have to be about Gimkit. It can be about tech integration models. It can be about some of the frameworks, the standards, anything. If you're just like, I know I want to do this specific thing, I want to do more collaboration in my classroom, or I have these tools and I don't exactly know what my first step is going to be on this one. Even from there, we can just have a conversation and try to extend that and see what that looks like in your classroom so you're getting what you want. But I'm going to leave that up to you. I do have a link at the top over here for my evaluation. Please take a moment. It's very short. It's a one page. It's a couple questions. You click a couple of buttons. If you want to, you can type in some suggestions on there. But yeah, take a moment to do these evaluations. I love doing these tech talks and I would love to make them better. And the only way I can really do that is through that feedback. So please take a moment if you can and fill that out. And at the very bottom, we have a link once again to opsrc.net/tech talks. If you haven't bookmarked it, you need to, because there's going to be more stuff. I'm excited on what's coming down the pipeline. But for right now, that is how you can access it. And at the very bottom, we have our own little communities down here. All of these buttons are associated with OPSRC. We're trying to celebrate and put out all the amazing stuff that all of our member schools are doing out there. And so please get connected in there, share those good stories. We can't possibly have enough of them because we want to put out, there's amazing stuff out there and people just simply don't know that they exist. And so we want to get those people connected. So take a moment, look through those, even if you just want to post a comment on there on saying how much you love, I don't know, how much you love doing the tech talks and listening to them. I would love to see some of that. But for right now, the holidays are getting started pretty soon. So I'm going to jump into a little bit of that. So thank you so much if you spent your time listening about Gimkit. I would love to help you if this tool resonates with you. But for right now, I think that's it for me. So thank you once again and have a great day.